In today's video, I'll show you how you can retire years earlier than you planned, often close to a decade, without sacrificing financial security. Most people never seriously consider retiring at 55 because it feels too risky and too early. The assumption is that retiring that soon would put too much strain on your finances and force uncomfortable trade-offs later. But after working with many retirees who stepped away earlier than expected, often because of a health event or unexpected career disruption, I saw something different. With the right financial strategies in place, retiring early didn't create financial stress. In many cases, it actually improved both their quality of life and their long-term financial outcomes. I'm Rosanna Quinnen, a chartered financial analyst, and through helping these retirees navigate early retirement, I've developed specific strategies that allow you to retire earlier while protecting your income, your lifestyle, and your long-term financial security. And that's what today's video is all about. Have you ever stopped to ask why the retirement age in America is 65? The answer will surprise you. The age of 65 traces back to government policy, not personal finance. Social Security's original retirement age was set during the Great Depression, largely to encourage workers to change jobs when there weren't enough jobs to go around. Decades later, Medicare aligned to age 65 to make it simpler to administer, not because it represented the ideal time for someone to stop working or the point at which their finances suddenly became secure. Over time, those policy decisions quietly turned into planning anchors. Instead of asking, when am I financially ready? Many people end up asking, when do my benefits start? And that's where conventional thinking can work against you, because it ties one of the most important lifestyle decisions of your life to rules that were never designed around your health, your goals, or your financial security. So if 65 was never designed to tell you when you're financially ready, here is the more important question. What if retiring early, not later, is actually the smarter decision for your life and your money? For many people, the years in your mid-50s represent a unique window that doesn't exist earlier or later in life. First, your largest family expenses are often behind you. In many cases, your children are grown, and the major costs, including college and ongoing support, are already paid for or winding down, which can significantly lower the income you actually need. Second, this is often when your net worth and your retirement portfolio is near an all-time high. After decades of saving, paying down debt, and building assets, the focus naturally shifts from accumulation to how efficiently your money can support your life. At the same time, your health and energy are typically much stronger in your 50s than they will be later. Think about something as simple and as demanding as hiking in the Grand Canyon. In your 50s, the hike is challenging, but it's manageable. Your recovery is faster, your joints cooperate, and you can focus on the experience instead of constantly managing your body. Do the same hike in your 60s, and the experience often changes. The terrain feels harder, the heat takes more out of you, recovery takes longer, and more of your attention goes towards pacing, hydration, and protecting your knees rather than enjoying where you are. It's the same hike, but it's not the same experience. And that difference matters when you're deciding when to use the most valuable years of your retirement. Most people think about retirement as one long phase of life. In reality, retirement changes, and research from MIT's Age Lab shows that it unfolds in 4 distinct stages. The first stage is the honeymoon phase, when health and energy are strong, freedom is new, and people want to travel, explore, and say yes to experiences. The second phase is the big decision phase, when retirees start deciding how they actually want to live day to day, where to live, how much to travel, and what routines feel fulfilling. The third is the longevity phase, which is more about stability, maintaining health, and sustaining quality of life over time. And the final stage is the solo phase, when life often becomes simpler and planning focuses more on ease, support, and protection for the surviving spouse. I've seen this progression very clearly with my own in-laws. Early in retirement, they were traveling internationally, trips to Italy and France. A few years later, those trips became closer and simpler. North Carolina, then driving to Florida. Eventually, they chose to retire full-time in Florida, where what mattered most was being settled and enjoying visits from kids and grandkids. Moving the honeymoon phase earlier doesn't just mean more trips. It means more presence, more energy for your kids, more life lived while your health is strong. Every year of good health matters, and timing is what allows you to use it well. At this point, this is actually where the biggest concern comes up: the money. Many people would like to retire earlier, but they're held back by the fear fear of not having enough. That fear is understandable. It's been reinforced by headlines, rules of thumb, and arbitrary benchmarks that are not designed for your goals and your retirement. You've probably seen the articles telling you that you need a certain number or a certain percentage of income to retire. Those numbers sound precise, but they're arbitrary. They describe a generic retirement, not yours. What I see again and again is that this fear is often unfounded, not because money doesn't matter, but because people are planning in the wrong order. They're starting with a number instead of starting with their life. That's where our more intentional approach comes in, what I call retirement by design. Instead of asking, do I have enough? We start by understanding what you actually want retirement to look like. How do you want to spend your time? Where you want to live? And what matters most to you? From there, we build a detailed retirement budget designed around those goals, not averages and not headlines, so you can see clearly how your finances support the life you want to live. When we do this, something important shifts. The busy, harried spending that comes with working, convenience, meals, commuting costs, workloads, constant time pressure naturally starts to fall away. The pressure to save at all costs eases because the focus moves from accumulation to using your savings well. In its place, spending becomes more intentional. Less money goes towards work-related expenses and more gets redirected toward experience, seeing shows, traveling with friends, and spending time in ways that actually feel meaningful. When we go through this process, there is one question I get more than any other. This sounds great, but most of my savings are in pre-tax, work-related accounts. How do I retire at 55 without getting crushed by penalties? That concern is completely valid, and it's one of the main reasons people assume retiring earlier is risky. But in reality, this is where thoughtful planning makes all the difference. Early retirement doesn't rely on one rule or one account. It's a coordinated strategy that uses different tools at different times. One of the first places we often start is your taxable brokerage account. Because this money was funded with after-tax dollars, it's accessible at any age. For many early retirees, this becomes the primary source of income in the first few years. If you leave your employer in the year you turn 55 or later, there is also the rule of 55, which allows you to take penalty-free withdrawals from that specific employer's 401k. It's a really powerful option that often is overlooked and can help bridge several key years. For IRA assets, there is another strategy called 72T distributions, or substantially equal periodic payment. When structured correctly, this allows you to access IRA funds before age 59.5 without penalty. It requires precision and long-term commitment, but it can be an effective part of an early retirement plan. We also layer Roth conversions and strategies. Early retirement years are often some of the lowest income years you'll ever have, which creates an opportunity to convert pre-tax dollars into Roth accounts at lower tax rates. Over time, this can reduce future taxes and create more flexibility later in retirement. And healthcare matters here too. Because your income is typically lower once you retire, ACA marketplace subsidies can become very meaningful. With careful income planning, many early retirees are able to significantly reduce health insurance costs before Medicare kicks in. This isn't something you guess at, it's something you model intentionally. When these strategies are used together, your money isn't locked up, it's sequenced. Different accounts support different phases of retirement. Your income is planned years in advance instead of pulled reactively. This is why retiring earlier isn't about finding loopholes or taking shortcuts. It's about understanding how the rules actually work and designing your withdrawals, taxes, and healthcare so your finances support the life that you want. If you're thinking about retiring earlier and want to know if it works for you, Retirement by Design is where we start. Click the link below to schedule a time and get clarity on your next steps. At its core, life is a series of trade-offs. One of the biggest trade-offs we make during our careers is trading time for money, with the promise that we'll fully enjoy life later. The challenge is that this trade-off isn't fair because time and health don't age the same way as money does. What you give up early isn't something you can fully get back later. What surprises many people is that most high net worth retirees don't actually spend down their wealth the way they expect to. In fact, many end up with more money at the end of their lives than they had when they retired. That's because their natural savings savers. Their habits don't suddenly change just because they stop working. And this is where retiring earlier is often misunderstood. Retiring early isn't just a lifestyle decision. It can be financially beneficial when it's done intentionally. Once you are no longer tethered to your email and your calendar or a fixed location, an entirely different set of financial choices becomes available. The first is tax arbitrage. During your working years, your taxes are largely dictated by your paycheck. Once you retire, especially in your 50s and early 60s, your income often drops, which gives you far more control over what, when, and how income shows up on your tax return. This creates opportunities to use strategies like Roth conversion in lower income years instead of waiting for required minimum distributions later when tax rates may be higher. It also allows you to be more intentional about realizing capital gains, spreading income over time, and reducing lifetime taxes, not just this year's tax bill. The second is geographic arbitrage. While you're working, where you live is often dictated by your job. In retirement, that constraint goes away. For some people, this means downsizing and relocating from a high state tax state like California or New York to no income tax state like Florida. For others, it's about flexibility, spending part of the year in a different location, or choosing where to live and travel more intentionally. These decisions can have a meaningful impact on taxes, healthcare costs, and overall spending, often more than working additional years would. And the third is what I call the time dividend. When you retire, you don't just gain free time, you gain decision-making capacity. You're no longer making financial choices late at night, rushed between obligations, or defaulting to convenience spending. You have the time to be more thoughtful, manage expenses intentionally, to oversee investments more carefully, and to make better decisions overall. Over time, this clarity compounds. Many retirees find that simply having the bandwidth to be intentional leads to less wasted money and a more efficient use of their resources. Early retirement doesn't feel risky when it's intentional. It feels risky when it's vague. And the difference between those two is having a clear process you can trust. When I work with retirees who want to explore retiring earlier, we don't make one big decision all at once. We follow a structured, four-phase system that allows each step to build on the last, so the plan feels thoughtful, resilient, and grounded. The first phase is design. This is where we step away from rules of thumb and generic assumptions and focus instead on designing your retirement, how you want your days to look like, how you want to spend your time, where you want to live, and what truly matters to you. This phase replaces vague ideas with clarity and gives the rest of the plan something real to support. The second phase is planning. Once the life is designed, the numbers follow. We build a detailed retirement budget around your goals, map out income sources, sequence accounts, and coordinate tax and healthcare planning across the different phases of retirement. Just as importantly, this is where we build in contingency and protection. We stress test the plan across different market scenarios, including what happens if markets decline early in retirement, and identify where flexibility and safeguards are needed. That means planning for higher than expected healthcare costs, periods of market volatility, or any expenses, so you're not forced to make decisions under pressure. The goal isn't to predict the future. It's to make sure your plan is resilient, adaptable, and built to hold up even when conditions don't cooperate. The third phase is implementation. This is where the strategy becomes real. Accounts are transferred, withdrawal strategies are put in place, tax and healthcare planning is coordinated, and the transition into retirement feels real. By the time this phase begins, you're not hoping the plan works. You've already seen how it holds up across multiple scenarios. And the final phase is adjustment. Retirement isn't static. Markets change, life changes, health and priorities change. A strong retirement plan isn't something you set once and forget. It's something you revisit and refine over time. This phase ensures your plan stays aligned with your life and remains resilient as conditions change. When you approach retirement this way with design, planning, just testing, implementation, and ongoing adjustment, retiring earlier doesn't feel reckless. It feels the responsible thing to do. And that's the goal, not just to retire early, but to retire with clarity, confidence, and a plan that supports the life you want, even when markets don't cooperate. Now that you understand why retiring at 55 is not only feasible, but can actually be the right move financially, the next step is simply to see how this applies to you. If you'd like help designing your own retirement with clarity around timing, income, taxes, and the trade-offs involved, I invite you to schedule a call with me using the link below. I'll see you in the next video.